SCRUM. SCRUM is an iterative and incremental process that follows an evolutionary approach to the development of software. This approach is recognizable through its specific concepts and practices that can be divided into three categories: roles, artifacts, and time boxes. Roles. SCRUM only contains 3 roles. Scrum Master is responsible for making the process run smoothly, by removing obstacles that impact productivity, and organizing and facilitating meetings. Main responsibilities: teach the product owner how to maximize return on investment, ROI, and meet their objectives through Scrum. Keep information about the team's progress up to date and visible to all parties. Product owner represents the business and is the voice of the customer. Main responsibilities: works closely with the team to define the user-facing and technical requirements, to document them as needed, and to determine the order of their implementation. Maintains the product backlog, which is the repository for all of the above information, and sets the schedule for releasing completed work to customers. Team is a self-organizing and cross-functional group of people who do the hands-on work of developing and testing the product. Main responsibilities: decide how to break work into tasks, and who to allocate tasks to throughout the sprint. Producing the product. Artifacts. The core elements of Scrum are the product backlog, the product increment, and the sprint backlog. These are the artifacts, which serve to capture the shared understanding of the team at a particular point in time. The product backlog is a prioritized list of requirements that the team will be delivering. Product backlog refinement happens every sprint, and can involve reviewing the highest priority tasks, deleting tasks that are no longer needed, writing new tasks and reprioritizing and estimating tasks. Iterations called sprints are short, perhaps 2 weeks in length, and focus on delivering a working version of the product. This product increment must align to the development team's definition of done and be acceptable by the product owner. A new sprint starts immediately after the conclusion of the previous sprint. The sprint is monitored by the daily Scrum, which is a short daily, usually 15-minute, highly structured meeting that is focused on removing barriers to success. The daily Scrum is held at the same time and place each day to reduce complexity. Only the people doing the work described on the sprint backlog need to attend the daily Scrum. A sprint backlog is a derivative of the product backlog that the team pulls into the sprint to work on. It is a to-do list that the development team will work off of during the current sprint, and only the development team can change it, as it is a real-time picture of the work that the team plans to accomplish during the sprint. Time boxes. This is a time management technique that limits the amount of time someone can spend on a certain activity in advance. Scrum process, time box. Sprint planning, 8 hours or less. Sprint retrospective, 3 hours or less. Sprint review, 4 hours or less. Sprint, 1 month or less. Daily Scrum, 15 minutes daily. Sprint planning is for the Scrum team to inspect the work from the product backlog, find the most valuable or next priority work to be done next, and design that work into the sprint backlog. Sprint retrospective serves for the Scrum team to inspect the past sprint and plan for improvements to enact during the next sprint. A sprint review is for the Scrum team and the stakeholders to inspect the increment resulting from the sprint, assess the impact of the work performed on overall progress, and update the product backlog in order to maximize the value of the next sprint. KABAN. KABAN is very similar to Scrum. The main differences between: no 2-week sprint, Kanban is a continuous process. No sprint backlog, the pull system in Kanban happens in a different way, via work in progress, WIP, limits. Work in progress limit related to the team's capacity. Scrum Master for Scrum is known as the Agile Coach for KABAN. Daily Scrum is daily stand-up in KABAN. Principles of KABAN. Visualize workflow. In KABAN, workflow is organized through a KABAN board, which consists of columns, typically 3, requested, in progress and done, and cards. Each column represents a step in the workflow, and each card represents a work item. When work on an item is started, it is pulled into the WIP column, and when it is done it is moved to the Done column. This provides a succinct way to track progress and spot bottlenecks. WIP limits. Setting a maximum items limit per stage ensures that a card is only pulled into the next step when there is available capacity. This ensures that the team's focus doesn't switch halfway through a process, as multitasking this way is inefficient. KABAN aims to ensure that a manageable number of active items are in progress at any one time. Feedback. Just as lean development states that regular meetings are necessary for knowledge transfer, referred to as feedback loops, KABAN has daily stand-ups. They are held in front of the KABAN board, and every team member explains to the others what they did the previous day, and what they plan on doing today. Extreme Programming, XP. This is an agile software development framework which aims to produce higher quality software and responsiveness to changing customer requirements. Principles of XP. Communication. Collaboration of users and programmers, with frequent verbal communication and feedback. Simplicity. Avoid waste and keep system design simple so that it is easier to maintain, support, and revise. Address only known requirements, don't try to predict the future. Courage. Courage in the software development sense is knowing when to throw code away, such as code that is obsolete, no matter how much effort was used to create that code. It also means persistence in the face of adversity. Respect. Includes respect for others as well as self-respect. Features of XP. Programming in pairs. Extensive code reviews. Unit testing of all code. Avoiding programming of features until they are actually needed. A flat management structure. Code simplicity. Frequent communication with the customer and among programmers. RUP. The Rational Unified Process, RUP, is structured around 6 fundamental principles. However, is not a concrete development model but is instead intended to be adaptive and tailored to the specific needs of a project. Principles of RUP. Develop software iteratively. This means that the software is developed in increments, by locating and working on the high-risk elements first. Manage requirements. This means that everything should be well documented. This principle shows how to organize and keep track of documentation, decisions, and business requirements. Visually model software. Like a wireframe, RUP means to visually model software, including the components and their relationships with one another. Use component-based architectures. RUP emphasizes development that focuses on software components which are reusable throughout a project and within future projects. Verify software quality. This means testing regularly all aspects of the product throughout the development life cycle. Control changes to software. This describes how to track and manage all forms of change that will inevitably occur throughout development, in order to produce successful iterations from one build to the next. Like commits and Git. DevOps is short for Development and Operations Collaboration. This methodology consists of the operations and development engineers working together in the entire project life cycle, from the design and development process to production releases and support. Features of DevOps. Reliability. By producing sufficient change logs, each team can monitor the logs and help themselves stay updated to be able to make real-time decisions quickly. Silo breakdown. Speed. One of the characteristics of DevOps is the speed in which feedback is requested and responding changes are made. If not properly managed, it can become one of the disadvantages as it eliminates all opportunity to carefully consider suggested changes. Lean development. Sometimes referred to as LSD, this methodology actually stems from lean manufacturing pioneered by Toyota. It is a set of techniques that can be applied to eliminate waste in manufacturing and improve productivity rather than a detailed methodology with stages, and as such can be combined with other methodologies. Principles of Lean. Focus on customers. Continuously seek to improve. Deliver and learn fast. Build in quality. Energize workers. RAD. Rapid Application Development, RAD, is a form of agile software development that prioritizes rapid prototype releases and iterations. Steps of RAD. Define and finalize project requirements. Build prototypes. Gather feedback. Test. Data conversion, user training and then launch.